You mentioned that there's a special representative within your office. Do you think that there would be any worth for some of the members of this committee to meet with that individual to just try to find out what possible different steps could be taken to kind of get some clarification and some action on this area?
I'm in the Division of Special Pathogen and Transplantation Products. The office that I was mentioning was the Office of Special Health Issues, that is in the Office of the Commissioner, and that deals with patient constituencies for different health areas. They might be a first contact place where they can help orient you to where you might find the information that you're seeking.
Given that you're the representative on this advisory committee, would there be anything that you might be willing to do to kind of make introductions for the people in office and alert them to the seriousness of this issue that we're bringing up?
My understanding is that the ex officio members of this committee are here to inform the committee in its deliberations. We're not here to, I am not entitled or authorized to be the conduit or the representative of my agency. I can help inform the committee on its deliberations. I can try to answer questions as to the best of my knowledge, but I would say I don't think that I could take on personally the responsibility of being the your agent in front of my agency.
Mark, maybe I misunderstand, but as the Robert, please, as a designated federal official,
I'm a taxpayer. I paid for this gentleman to be sitting here. He has sat here for at least since 2004, spewing the same trash over.
And Mark, I would hope as well. We've had we have heard these issues, and I would hope that even though your role is to help inform the committee, I know other ex officios go back and share the information that they hear, whether it's official or unofficial. As a designated federal official, I can reach out to the appropriate person, but it's helpful if you can grease the skids. And, what I'm not hearing clearly here, and it makes me want to hang my own head as a federal colleague, is that it almost sounds like you are unwilling to go back within FDA and say to someone, so that's where I want to be clear.
No, I would like to correct that. I would like to correct that. No. I do go back and do inform my colleagues who are aware that I was present here. I do let them know what are the aspects that are of interest to this committee. I do take notes. I do make them aware of that. I am aware of the different groups that are reviewing products for chronic fatigue syndrome. It's scattered around more divisions than just my division, and I do reach to them and speak to them. They know that I'm here, and they are interested in hearing about the business of this committee. When I receive messages from you or announcements about activities of this committee, I do share that with them.
That I am willing, as a designated federal official for this committee, if it's something that you're not specifically charged to do, that's my job. So if I can find a name and have that dialogue, and if it's someone that a subcommittee wants to talk to, or we bring them into the next committee meeting, if that's helpful, and as we develop the agenda toward the next meeting, or, we've talked about doing webinars. Maybe we do a webinar on what the FDA drug approval process is. So we just have that out there, because there are a lot of folks maybe new to, they might know pieces of it, but don't know, I know pieces of it, but I don't know the stuff I'm not allowed to know. So, it's things like that, Mark.
Oh, definitely.
Because I know what FDA has done to respond to consumers.
Yes.
And, this is frustrating for me to hear. So I will defend this department. When I'm hearing what I'm hearing, it makes it darn difficult for me to defend.
I apologize if it's coming across that way. It's in my past presentations, which were to the coordinating committee, I have been able to present in greater detail how the divisions were working and the role of the FDA. This has changed a little bit since that time. The products are no longer for chronic fatigue syndrome, are no longer in the division of antiviral drug products. They're probably scattered across more divisions. However, the process for the approval of products at the Food and Drug Administration has not changed, and that I believe should be, we try to make this information available on our website. There are different places, and I can, maybe for the next meeting, come up with more specific recommendations for certain websites that are much more didactic and that do explain the different phases of drug development and the agency's involvement in those different steps there too.
I'm going to take a liberty and just insert myself into the discussion a little bit. Mark, it seems to me clearly that Ampligen has some efficacious effects. You know, we see people that have benefited from taking the drug. We also are aware that there are risks associated with using Ampligen. So it seems to me that the movable piece is where we put CFS in that spectrum of illnesses in terms of how serious it is or how important it is to find a remedy for it. Is there some sort of rubric that you use to determine where an illness fits between itchy skin and breast cancer?
That's a very complex question. There's no formula for that. The products are reviewed by multidisciplinary teams, people with expertise in different aspects of pharmacology and medicine. And the chemists, toxicologists, statisticians, immunologists, clinicians in different specialties, because in the case of chronic fatigue syndrome, certainly it's a multisystemic disease, therefore the experts of different medical specialties are involved. So all the aspects of the development, from the first decision of whether a product can go into phase 1 studies based on animal toxicology studies and proof of concept studies, through phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, there is constant review and dialogue with the sponsor between the agency. I'm sorry that the time does not permit me to explain that in greater detail. This is something, though, that is widely available to people who are interested and have the ability of accessing the internet, where our website, I believe, goes into great detail and explains the different processes there. We do have an enormous amount of outreach. Many people from the agency are speaking every week at in different societies or different meetings explaining how we work. We've not had the opportunity to do this at this particular committee, but certainly we've done it with many other groups in the past.
I would add, Wanda, I think you have a task when you contact whoever that person at FDA is to help them understand that chronic fatigue syndrome, ME, is somewhere between a runny nose and a death sentence, closer to the death sentence than the runny nose. And I think in all, without being nasty or pejorative or so on, I think what it reflects is what we've been talking about at this meeting for the last 3 days, is the incredible ignorance out there. Maybe not stupidity, hopefully, because we can't fix stupidity, we can fix ignorance. Somebody wise told me that recently. That there's a tremendous ignorance out there about the severity of this illness. And that extends, it's not unique to the FDA, but it certainly extends to the FDA. And we need to get some people that have some level of gathering together experts in ME/CFS. Bring them into an advisory board, bring them in front of the FDA, and I suspect over a day or a 2-day, we can convince them that it's something more than a larger drug.
I don't think it's an issue of people at FDA not understanding how serious this illness is. There's not a soul I've ever talked to, the heads of the various centers and in biologics, where we're working very closely with them on the blood issues. They take this very seriously. In the overall drug, what's that one? CEDAR, drug evaluation and research, very seriously as well. Peggy Hamburg, I've known for years, the FDA commissioner. I'm convinced with just a snippet of a conversation that she knows. It's not a question of understanding the seriousness. When Mark is basically saying that a company comes in and says, I've found this drug for this application, for this disease or condition or indication or whatever, here are the studies I have done to prove this. Sometimes the studies they have done either are inadequate in number, they are insufficiently, some of the problems that have arisen are insufficiently addressed. You know, is this a potential side effect, whatever. There's all kinds of things. None of us is allowed to see any of that. The agency reviews that. This is the regulatory process, and the parts Mark cannot talk about. So, you know, there are things that get done that do not serve the people who would best be served by that drug, that it's not the fault of those people. The investigator may have been a little naive. They may have collected the wrong data endpoints. You know, I don't know. All these things come together. We are all human. But when there is not sufficient data for the agency to look that clearly proves that safety and efficacy, who does it benefit if they say, oh, you know, we like to see things in black and white and we'll accept gray here. If clearly it's life-saving, even though it's risky, there is a gateway through which FDA can approve or let things be tested in that specific circumstance. If it's otherwise not clear, the dialogue begins with what the faults of the study are. And the dialogue is with FDA and the sponsor. And again, we are not privy to that. Sometimes sponsors come out and say, this is what happened, this is what FDA told us, blah, blah, blah. Again, we are not privy to those sorts of things. But, you know, what I suspect, if Ampligen hasn't been approved after all of these years, it's not because of Mark. It's not because people at FDA don't care. And I was trying to give Mark, as angry as I was, a chance to try to redeem himself, because I don't think he intended how he was coming across. Because I know him to be a good person. But that said, it's clearly in the way in which the study was designed, and that doesn't mean there have not been people whose lives have been changed enormously by the drug. We see this in cancer clinical trials. You know, we see this in things that a generation from now might make it to market, but they've benefited because they were in there, and they may have access under that IND, the investigational new drug, and sometimes, frankly, yes, it's used off-label. Mark's not going to comment on that, but all of these things where people get access, but it doesn't help the approval process.
I understand what you're saying, Wanda, and I don't disagree with what you're saying with the